stories you were best at, Mr. Hoffman. The harmless ones.
Lynda Carter became a symbol before she became a person in the public eye. When Wonder Woman aired in 1975, she did not simply rise to fame, she became the standard of strength, grace, and composure for an entire generation. But success at that scale creates a quiet contract. The public expects permanence. The image must never age, never falter, never change. For Carter, achievement and expectation grew inseparable, and the role that elevated her also defined her. If you value thoughtful storytelling about legacy and resilience, please like, subscribe, and share your perspective in the comments below. Lynda Carter's first defining breakthrough came not simply with a crown, but with a costume. When she was cast as Wonder Woman in 1975, the television landscape was still cautious about placing women at the center of action-driven storytelling. Female characters were often written as supporting figures, intelligent, perhaps, but rarely commanding physical authority or moral leadership. Carter stepped into that vacuum at precisely the right cultural moment. The mid-1970s marked a period of recalibration in American society. Conversations about women's independence were moving from the margins into mainstream discourse. Yet television had not fully caught up. Casting a former Miss World USA winner in a superhero role could have reinforced stereotypes. Instead, Carter delivered a performance that balanced strength with composure and confidence with warmth. She did not portray power as aggression. She portrayed it as steadiness. The commercial success of Wonder Woman was immediate. Ratings were strong, syndication expanded its reach, and Carter's image became inseparable from the character. But the deeper impact was reputational. She was no longer introduced as a pageant winner attempting to act, she became a credible lead carrying a network series. That distinction mattered in Hollywood, where perception often dictates longevity. This breakthrough altered her professional standing in two ways. First, it elevated her from emerging talent to cultural figure. Second, it placed her within a narrow but powerful identity, an advantage that opened doors, yet one that required careful navigation. From that point forward, every role would be measured against the standard she had set in red, white, and blue. Her rise was not accidental, nor was it purely cosmetic. It reflected timing, discipline, and presence converging at a pivotal industry moment. If this perspective resonates, consider subscribing and sharing your thoughts below. With the rapid success of Wonder Woman, Lynda Carter faced a familiar but formidable challenge: how to manage fame without becoming consumed by it. Overnight recognition can distort professional judgment, especially when a single role defines public perception. For Carter, the question was not how to amplify visibility, but how to protect longevity. Media attention in the late 1970s often reduced female stars to surface appeal. Carter, already carrying the dual labels of beauty queen and superhero, understood the risk of being confined to image alone. Rather than aggressively chasing film roles that mirrored the Wonder Woman persona, she moved deliberately. She expanded into music performances and television appearances that highlighted her vocal talent and stage presence, subtly reminding audiences that she was more than a costume. Public expectation was equally complex. Viewers wanted her to remain the symbol of strength they admired. Yet cultural icons rarely have the luxury of reinvention without resistance. Carter navigated this tension by neither rejecting nor overexploiting the character that made her famous. She acknowledged its impact while resisting the temptation to commercialize it beyond recognition. That restraint signaled strategic awareness. She preserved the brand without diluting it. Equally significant was her willingness to step back when necessary. Rather than saturating the market with appearances that could weaken her stature, she chose selective visibility. In an industry driven by constant exposure, absence can be as intentional as presence. By controlling when and how she appeared, Carter maintained a degree of authority over her narrative. This phase of her career demonstrates a measured approach to fame, less reactive, more architectural. She did not attempt to outrun public expectation, she structured her career around it. If you appreciate thoughtful analysis of legacy and career strategy, subscribe and share your perspective in the comments below. As the intensity of early fame stabilized, Lynda Carter entered a phase defined less by visibility and more by agency. The question was no longer how to sustain celebrity, but how to control it. For performers who become strongly identified with a single role, long-term survival depends on strategic expansion rather than repetition. Carter gradually shifted toward projects that allowed greater creative input. Instead of pursuing large-scale studio vehicles that might confine her to familiar archetypes, she leaned into music, live performance, and selective television work, areas where she could shape tone, repertoire, and presentation. This diversification was not a retreat from acting, it was a recalibration of leverage. By emphasizing her vocal abilities and stage presence, she reminded audiences that her artistry extended beyond scripted heroism. Equally important was her approach to brand stewardship. Carter did not attempt to erase her association with Wonder Woman, nor did she allow it to dominate every public appearance. She repositioned herself as an accomplished entertainer whose past success enhanced credibility rather than limited range. This reframing protected her legacy while opening space for evolution. In an era when nostalgia can either empower or trap a performer, she chose integration over denial. Behind the scenes, maturity also meant exercising discernment. Accepting fewer projects but with clearer alignment signaled confidence in long-term equity over short-term exposure. Career control often manifests not in dramatic announcements, but in selective participation. By determining when to appear, what to endorse, and how to engage with her own legacy, Carter increased her authority over narrative and timing. This stage of her professional life reflects an understanding that influence grows when visibility is intentional. Expansion, in her case, was not about scale, it was about sovereignty. As her career matured, Lynda Carter demonstrated that longevity in public life often depends on knowing when to step back. In an industry that rewards constant exposure, intentional withdrawal can appear counterintuitive. Yet for Carter, selective distance became a stabilizing strategy rather than a sign of decline. By limiting appearances and choosing projects carefully, she preserved both her professional stature and personal equilibrium. Balancing family life with public recognition required recalibration. Marriage and motherhood introduced responsibilities that could not be managed through publicity teams or studio contracts. Carter adjusted her schedule and visibility to reflect those commitments. Rather than treating domestic priorities as interruptions to career momentum, she integrated them into a broader definition of success. This shift reframed ambition not as relentless expansion, but as sustainable progression. Equally significant was her openness about personal challenges later in life, including seeking rehabilitation in 2008. The decision to address difficulties directly reflected accountability rather than spectacle. In doing so, she aligned her public image with maturity and self-awareness. For audiences over 45, that transparency resonates differently than youthful reinvention, it signals responsibility and growth. Throughout these years, Carter maintained a careful balance between honoring the legacy of Wonder Woman and asserting her identity beyond it. She appeared at commemorative events and embraced the character's cultural significance, yet she did not allow nostalgia to dictate her daily life. By controlling access and pacing, she ensured that admiration did not evolve into overexposure. Sustainable fame, in her case, became less about visibility and more about coherence. She demonstrated that it is possible to remain respected in public memory without surrendering personal priorities. The result was not constant spotlight, but enduring credibility, an achievement often more valuable than sustained headlines. Lynda Carter's legacy is not anchored in a costume or a single decade of television, it rests in the discipline with which she managed success over time. Many performers achieve visibility. Far fewer convert visibility into durability. Her career offers a case study in how achievement, when handled with restraint, can evolve into long-term relevance. Success, in Carter's trajectory, was never treated as a finish line. It was a platform that required stewardship. The role that made her famous could easily have confined her to repetition or nostalgia. Instead, she approached it as foundational capital, valuable, but not exhaustive. That distinction reflects a mature understanding of professional identity. Achievement becomes sustainable only when it is integrated, not endlessly replicated. Autonomy stands as the second enduring lesson. From early decisions about image to later choices about selective engagement, Carter demonstrated that control is often exercised quietly. She did not attempt dramatic reinventions or public confrontations to assert independence. Rather, she practiced measured decision-making, choosing projects carefully, stepping back when necessary, and addressing personal challenges with accountability. Autonomy, in this context, was not defiance, it was alignment. The broader lesson for audiences, particularly those who have navigated decades of professional life, is clear. Sustainable careers are built less on momentum than on calibration. Visibility must be balanced with privacy. Opportunity must be weighed against identity. Endurance requires pacing. From a balanced analytical perspective, Carter's path illustrates both the advantages and constraints of iconic status. Cultural symbolism can amplify influence, but it also narrows interpretation. Her success lay in recognizing that tension and working within it rather than fighting against it. Ultimately, her meaning extends beyond entertainment history. She represents the possibility of evolving without erasing one's past. If this reflection added value, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below.